Before I start speaking, I would like to say that I am in no way trying to be a hater of SGA. I appreciate his game. And to be honest, I'm a Warriors fan. And as a Warriors fan, SGA has earned my respect over this season. I do not mean to diminish anything SGA is doing. Let's look at his stats this season. He's averaging 31.7 points per game, 6.5 assists per game, 5.8 rebounds per game. He's shooting at 54.4% from the field as a point guard. He is shooting at 30.2% from the three. He's averaging 2.8 steals per game, and he has a 63.7 true shooting percentage. His team is the second seed in the West, arguably the best team in the West, and they have a 20-9 record. With all that being said, there's no way you give SGA the MVP this season as of right now. There's no way he's in the conversation, top 3 conversation. There's no way. Well, why do I say that? Well, the reason I say that is because Luka's not. If Luka's not, there's no way SGA is. If SGA is in the top 3 for the MVP conversation right now, when he actually has a real shot at getting the award, and Luka doesn't, then something doesn't add up. The fact of the matter is both Luka and SGA are being left out of the MVP race right now, and they should both be left out at the same time if you're going to leave them out. Because not one, I do believe Luka is playing better than SGA right now. I mean, his stats say it. Luka's averaging 33.7 points per game, 9.2 assists, 8.4 rebounds, all better than Shai. Shai's more efficient at 54% from the field, but Luka's at 49%. It's not that bad. Not that much worse. Luka's more efficient from the 3 at 38%. Luka has a 61% true shooting. Shai has a 63%. So if your main, or close at 64 actually. So if your main argument is going to be that Shai plays better defense and then Shai's more efficient, I'm going to say Luka's a better passer, Luka's a better rebounder, Luka's a better scorer, and Luka is definitely more valuable to his team, in my opinion. I believe if you take Luka off of the Mavericks, they're not a playoff team, and I believe that if you take Luka off the Mavericks, they are the worst team in the West. Now, I believe if you take SGA off the OKC Thunder, they are not a playoff team. I'm not going to say that they are, but I'm not going to say that they're the worst in the Western Conference. Now, I don't want to sit here and, compare Luka and SGA. They're two different types of players, but I do want to say that they are both in the same boat in a way. They're both being left out of the MVP conversation when 5 years ago, they both would have probably been the front runner. You put SGA or Luka in 2015 where Curry won his first MVP, a team with 67 wins is probably a big reason as to why. But at the same time, you plop SGA or Luka in there, they're probably the front runner for MVP. You drop SGA or Luka into the MVP conversation the year when Harden or Russell Westbrook or maybe Steve Nash, any of these older guys from, in the past that won MVP, their stats were nowhere near, in my opinion, what SGA and Luka are doing this season. Yet, I believe they both are being left out of the MVP race for no real good reason. I know we have a lot of talent. You have guys like Joel Embiid. You have guys like Nikola Jokic. You have guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo also in this race, this conversation. You got guys like Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum who also deserve their say in this conversation. And so the talent pool is a lot bigger. But when you see players that are playing this level of basketball as point guards, you would argue that they would be in the MVP race. So I'm not arguing that they're not MVP caliber players, but the fact that the NBA is leaving them out of the top 3, I believe that warrants them both being left out. If Luka's left out, SGA is left out. If Luka's in, SGA is in. If SGA is in, Luka's in. These two guys are both playing superb basketball right now. And over their last 10 games, if you compare their numbers, they're both averaging ridiculous amounts of points. Ridiculous stat lines. SGA gives his all on defense. Luka gives his all to passing and playmaking. These are great players that are both doing very well for their team this season, and they both deserve the recognition. But at the same time, if you leave one out, you got to leave the other out. If you put one in, you got to put the other in. This is not me in any way trying to hate on SGA, but I'm saying that if you put SGA in that top 3 MVP ranking and you don't put Luka in there, I'm going to be very confused. You can't say, oh, well, one team is doing better than the other because Russell Westbrook won MVP as a 6th seed, right? So what's the standard for MVP? If we're going to go by the past years, then Russ did it as a 6th seed. Luka's a 6th seed. So what? And Russ may have been a 7th seed, if I'm not mistaken. He may have been a 7th seed. I'm not sure. I need to look that up. Fact check me on that. But Russ may have won as a 7th seed. These are guys that had crazy stats, meant so much to their team. They were so valuable to their team that they were given the MVP. So why not Luka? Why not Luka? So you can't just sit there and say, oh, well, it's stats. Oh, it's the record. No, it's not the record. That can't be what it is. Statistically wise, Luka's playing better than SGA. Luka has a worse team than SGA. He's more valuable to that trash team than SGA is. Not that I'm not trying to diminish SGA's value, but the truth is, the OKC Thunder would still be a decent team without SGA. And that's not me hating on your boy. I'm just being honest. I believe SGA is an amazing, superb basketball player. But at the end of the day, there's no way this guy's in the MVP conversation if Luka's not. Somehow, some way, Luka's doing something wrong, right? Luka's doing something wrong, and somehow he's not in the MVP conversation. Whatever. I don't agree. I believe Luka should be in the MVP conversation. And I've bargained in videos past that Luka should be the MVP this season. And so, obviously, I would argue that SGA would be in the conversation if we had a reality of that nature. But since we don't, and Luka is left out of the conversation, no, I will be the first person to call bias, to call rigged if SGA gets himself into the top 3 and Luka's not. Because that's not fair. And I hope you can see where I'm coming from here. I believe SGA is a great player. I believe he's an MVP caliber player. I believe 5 years ago he's the MVP. I believe 10 years ago he's probably the MVP. But this year, since Luka's not in it, SGA's not in it. And since the race of MVP has changed to, I don't even know what they judge MVP politics. I don't know what the politics is. Definitely politics. Actually, I do know it's politics. That's what they judge the MVP based on. I just know for sure. I know for sure that if Luka doesn't get it, SGA doesn't get it. Because if you want to have a debate between Luka and SGA for MVP this season, I'm definitely giving it to Luka. But SGA is great. But there's no way he's the MVP and in the MVP conversation seriously if Luka's not in it seriously. He'll be in the top 5. Luka will be in the top 5. But if Luka doesn't crack the top 3, SGA doesn't crack the top 3. That's just how I feel. And I know a lot of Thunder fans really think really think SGA is in the conversation. But I believe that he can't be in the conversation because there's no way he's doing anything better than Luka right now besides defense and efficiency. So, and Luka's not even that bad on defense. Luka's 1.4 steals a game. SGA's 2.8. He's doubling in his steals, but Luka is not a liability on the defensive side of the basketball. So, yeah. Anyway, shout out to SGA, though. I don't want to leave out the video just hating on boy. He's playing crazy basketball this season. He gives me hope for the Kyrie Irving type point guard, the Allen Iverson type point guard, because that man is ridiculous. And he's one of the only players who really has, besides Kyrie, taken Curry and, gave him the business. And I'm a Warriors fan. I'm a Curry fan. He's my all-time favorite player. He's my GOAT. So that's respectable. But yeah, man, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. I certainly did. And yeah. Peace out.